If you have ever used Wireshark, you must be very familiar with capturing LAN port traffic. But what if you want to capture the WAN port traffic, the internet traffic? So in this video, let's talk about 3 ways to do that. First, if what you want to capture is for your home lab, which is behind your main gateway. The second approach, let's use a switch in the WAN side. Then the third option, let's use the built-in functionality of Wireshark to do sshdump. I use UniFi gateway and switches, but the idea should be able to easily adjust it to apply to other vendors' devices. In my lab environment, in the right side UniFi network controller, you can see I have a UDM Pro as the gateway. If I go to my internet setting, you can see I only have this primary WAN port active. In the IP address, you can see it has a LAN IP address. The reason is I run the home lab behind my home network. This home lab gateway is behind my main gateway. So the WAN port IP address is just the LAN port IP address of my home network. That's why you see this type of IP address. Because of this setup, it makes the Wireshark WAN port capturing very easy. So let me show you. This is the home lab gateway, right? What I want to achieve is to capture this port 10's traffic. And this port 10, as shown in the diagram, is connected to another switch in my home network, connect to this part. So let me show you this particular switch. This is the switch which is used to hook up the lab environment gateway. So you can see the gateway is connected to the port 6. And for port 1, I connected to Wireshark. And you can see for port 1, I set it to manual mirroring, and it will mirror 6. So that's why if I run a Wireshark on the port 1, it should be able to capture the packets of port 6, which is connected to the WAN port of the home lab gateway, right? So in the lower left, I already launched the Wireshark. Let me start capturing. Then you can see, just to limit the display, I only want to show you the DNS packets. Then in the right side client machine, let me run a dig command. And just to differentiate this traffic with the left side existing traffic, let me use 9999 as the DNS server and digx.com, run it. See the left side, let me stop capturing. These two packets are what I captured, the right side client's traffic. You can see the source IP address is the WAN port IP address of my home lab gateway. So we have successfully captured the WAN port traffic for the home lab. So this is easy. Let's move on to the second option. Now let's talk about what if you want to capture the real WAN traffic. This is a gateway of one of my production systems. For now, ignore this switch. You can assume this WAN port is directly connected to internet, to ISP. You can also assume this switch is managed by this gateway. Now it is within the LAN. It is not in the WAN part. So this is the switch, 8-port PoE switch. The idea is I want to use this switch, put it in the WAN part, so that not only my WAN part can connect to the switch, but also another computer running Wireshark can also connect to it. And then I set the port mirroring in this switch so that the Wireshark can monitor the WAN traffic. So this is the apparent idea every people will think of if they try to do WAN port capturing. But in real world, there are several things you need to pay attention to, otherwise it won't work. As I mentioned, now this switch is not in WAN, it is in LAN. So let me do the setup first, because once you move it to WAN, it will be out of control of your network controller. It will run by itself. So you have to do some pre-configuration before moving it to WAN, right? Port 8 is the part I'm going to connect to Wireshark computer. And the port 1, now it is connected to the upstream switch in the LAN part. But I wanted to connect to the modem, connect to ISP. And then for port 2, I want to connect to the one part of the gateway. So when the switch runs in one part, there will be 3 ports active. So what I need to do is go to port 8, set it to menu, to mirroring, and then I need to monitor port 2 because port 2 will be used to connect to the one part, right? Then I set to port 2. Apply changes. Another thing I need to set is, even though in my environment I don't really need to do that, but in your case you may need to do that. It's about DHCP. Depending on your ISP and your contract, your ISP may only give you one IP address. So think about it. By default, UniFi switch will receive a IP address through DHCP. If you simply hook it up, this switch will get the precious one single real internet IP address from your ISP. When you connect another port to the gateway, it won't receive IP address anymore. So you want to avoid that, right? That's why we need to pre-configure the switch to use fixed IP address. So let me do that. Let me go to the switch setting, enable the network override, proceed. Instead of DHCP, let me use static. Let me simply use this one, which is showing up here. It's not done yet. I still need to let it know the subnet mask. Then for gateway, even though it doesn't matter, I have to give one. Then for DNS, let me set to whatever random one. Okay. Finally, the apply changes button is enabled. Then let me apply changes. Okay, so now we are done with the static IP address setting. I'm ready to move this switch to the one part. Let me do it now. Okay, I have moved this small switch to the one side and reconnected all the cables. Now I'm ready. You can see in the right side the UniFi network controller. This switch is showing offline already, right? Then in the Wireshark, let me start capturing. You can see I already filtered the IP address to 9999 just to only show you the ones we are interested in so that you won't see other ongoing traffic, because this is my real one part, right? Let me start capturing. Then from the client, let me dig x.com, but using 9999 as a DNS server. Okay, it's successful. And then in the left side, you can see the captured packet, right? I already masked the IP addresses for my one part, but I can confirm, yes, it is my real internet IP address. Okay, so we have successfully captured packets, but you know what? I don't really recommend this way. The reason is you need to do some pre-configuration about this switch, and then in my experience, not every switch will work, because I did try some other small switches. If you disconnect it with your gateway and then reboot it, it will lose the settings. The second reason I don't like it is whatever you connect to this switch in one part, including the switch itself, they do not have any protection from your firewall. You are exposing them directly to the internet. That's very dangerous. Another reason is you will see in the third approach, it's much elegant, much easier. So you don't really spend a lot of effort like in this approach to achieve the same effect. Now let's move on to the third approach. This time, let's use the built-in feature of Wireshark. It's called SSH remote capturing, or sshdump. For more details, you can refer to one of my previous videos about Wireshark remote capturing. I will leave the link in the description of this video. So here, I'm only going to show you how to do it. Basically, it needs SSH to establish a pipe between your gateway and your local Wireshark. There's a prerequisite. Your gateway's SSH must accept password. So let me show you what I mean. In the lower part terminal, let me SSH to the gateway. Then go to etc SSH. Then what you need to do is to edit this configuration file. Don't confuse this one with another one, which is this one. This one doesn't have D. It is for client. What we want to edit is SSHD, the daemon. So let me VI it. there are two a little bit confusing configuration. One is called password authentication. The other one is challenge response authentication. If you have ever SSH into your gateway, you may know without changing this configuration file, you can use username password, right? That's because this particular configuration is configured to yes by default. But for this video, for the sshdump to work, you need this parameter. By default, this one is no. But you can see I already changed it to yes. So if you want to use sshdump, you also need to change this configuration to yes. Then after you change it, you need to restart SSHD. You can use systemctl restart SSHD. But for my case, I already did that, so I don't need to restart it. Let me exit SSH. So now I'm ready to capture it. The way to use sshdump in Wireshark is from your home screen, see this option, SSH remote capture, sshdump. Click on this icon. Then here you need to specify your gateway's IP address. For SSH port, of course, 22. Then for authentication, I want to use root. Then you need to input the password here. Then for capture, here for remote interface, depending on your gateway, you need to use different interface name. So for details, again, check my previous video about Wireshark remote capturing. But here, because it's UDM Pro and from the UniFi network controller, if I go to the port manager, you can see I'm using port 10 to connect to internet. So the internal name for port 10 is Ethernet 9. Okay, so then I want to choose TCP dump to run in gateway. Then for remote capture filter, in my case, I only want to show you the DNS packet, so I put the port 53 as filter. In your case, you use whatever filter which works for you, right? That's it. That's the change I want to make. Then save. Now I'm ready. Double click it. You can see there's no error. The remote capturing already started. You already see some packet, right? And from the one port IP address, you can tell, yes, because I'm running this UDM Pro behind my main gateway. So that's why you see a LAN address as the one port address, right? Just to confirm, it's really capturing the one port traffic in the right side. Let me dig x.com using 9999 as the domain name server. Okay. Stop capturing. Now you see the two captured packets here from the one port to 9999 queryx.com. This one is the reply. Okay, so you can see how easy it is, right? But a prerequisite is you have to change the SSHD configuration in your gateway to make it work. Okay, this ends the video. Thanks for watching.